welcome. Welcome everyone to virtual open house. Um, we will be going for about an hour today. There will be time for question and answer, but I think you will find that feel free to go ahead and queue some. You have the chat, and Ruth and I will check those throughout, so we might be able to handle some questions as we go along as well. So it might be an hour, it might be a little less. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest. And without further ado, sort of get going. And so during this, the next few minutes, we'll go through and talk about the student life and experience, the different faculty members that you'll be interacting with at the event, career opportunities, some stories about where some of our alumni are working, financial aid, scholarships, different places that you might be able to look for support and or how to look for scholarships and grants, discuss the application process a bit, and then we will make sure and have time for question and answer as well. And so I'm Jay. As I mentioned, I'm an associate professor in the department, and I'm also the director of the master's program. Here you can see my contact details. Generally speaking, email is the best way to reach me. And I speak with a lot of students, a lot of people on video call from around the world. And so if you're interested, whether it be in a master's program, perhaps with us, or just in studying in the United States, I do try to be gracious with my time and talk to students. And so feel free to reach out. I might be able to connect you with people either at ODU or at other universities. I have some friends around. And so I do want to make sure to know that we're pretty open and friendly bunch. And so with me today as well, and I think Ruth is. Oops, I think I made a setting that caused trouble. I may have to stop the share for a moment. Those tools. Now, okay, Ruth.
Okay. So my name is Ruth. I'm a second year master's student. I'm originally from Kenya and currently I'm the program ambassador. I studied bachelor's in Multimedia University of Kenya and now doing my master's here at ODU. And so far, so good. It's been great. And I'm happy to share my experience today.
Quick mention, if you have not already, if you have your cell phone with you, please do follow us on LinkedIn. We have a feed. We try to send regular updates, send reminders about due dates, and sort of how the calendar works if you're applying to graduate programs, whether it be with us here at ODU or just in general. For economics, now it might be a little different in other programs. We have department news, student accomplishments, student events, those sorts of things. And so please follow us. We try to make sure that it's active and there'll be information if you are interested. And so a brief overview before we move along. And Bruce will talk about sort of her experience here. The program is relatively straightforward. You come to us, you're going to have 10 classes. If you took one course a semester, that counts out to be about 10 semesters. If you take 2 a semester, that is about 5 semesters. If you come in as a full-time student, that normally works out to be about 4 semesters, is how it works, 2 academic years. We are available in person, online, full-time, or part-time. There are assistantship opportunities available. We'll circle back around and talk about that here in a little bit. We are STEM certified, which means for applicants who are international students, this qualifies you for an extended optional practical training of up to 3 years. And so that's something that students are generally interested in knowing. And we have a focus on applied data analysis, implementing or using R in the core econometrics series. So we're really trying to prepare students basically for the 2 tracks where hopefully you'll be ready. If you want to go on to a PhD, want to help you become where you can, like the first semester, you might be able to be a productive graduate assistant, research assistant in that, or you might be able to step into analyst type work, or going into work where you can prepare, synthesize, manipulate data, and present it to decision makers coming in. And so I think Ruth will talk a little bit about her experience.
Yeah, so my experience, I really had a wonderful time here at ODU. And just as Jay said about the course load, I'm required to take 30 credit hours. And for my first semester, I took 6 credit hours. That was 2 courses. And I was happy. I mean, some of my professors that I took, their classes are here, Jay and Dr. Alex. It was pretty amazing. I had a very smooth transition. I really got their help. So like Jay mentioned, we use R a lot for pretty much of the program. So I initially had no experience with R, but it was harder the first time to try and learn everything, but I would say it's been a wonderful experience, and the professors are really helpful. I've always had like an email office hour. I have visited the professors quite a lot in their office hours. They're very supportive. An email away if you have any issues, challenges, I've always reached out. Yeah. And Jay, to the next slide.
Oh, to this slide, of course.
About my campus life, this is the first place in my life I ever had I'm in a very diverse environment. It's been wonderful just to meet people from all over the world. Nice experience that I initially did not have. And it's really been wonderful. There are a lot of student organizations in the campus, and I think I missed on that. There's a group or a site called Global Monarchs where you can look at different student organizations that might interest you, just to spice up a little bit your campus experience. And then there are events and workshops. Like a few weeks ago, we had the State of Region presentations here, and we also had an opportunity to attend a conference. So it's been quite a wonderful experience all along. And then another thing is cultural difference. Of course, when you get here, if you're not from, say, from the United States, it's a little bit different. You have to adjust accordingly. You might find some just differences in culture. Like in my country, I was used to not smiling. We were used to shaking hands, but I find it quite different over here, which is still wonderful. So I just adjusted accordingly. But there are also different offices in campus and clubs that would kind of help you with that. There's one that helped me to adjust. Is called the Global Monarch Club, that had pair me to a mentor that helped me adjust accordingly, which I think is wonderful for to have such organizations on campus. And then meeting new people, of course, whether you're from here in the region or from whatever part of the continent that you come from, you'll always meet new people when you get here. I had trouble in remembering all the names every day, but which took me time, but it was all wonderful. Jay, next slide.
Slide.
Yeah. And then basically getting to a master's program or transitioning to another region, if you're not from this place, can be a little bit challenging. And you might want support, or you might want to consider your mental health and well-being where you're in the region. And there are various support systems that can help you with that. There is the ODU counseling services. And also, yeah, you can always schedule an appointment. It's always free for students anytime you need such kind of help. And it's been very important to me. And stay connected to your close people. Can be home or any other place that you have a community that's gonna help you to, try and maneuver while doing your coursework. That's very important. And living in Norfolk. So I initially told Jay I was not living in Norfolk before, but it's important to live close to school when you get here, or if you're around, you might want to stay around the campus. I think it's easier to stay close to campus because of the cost. There's the transportation part. If you're not staying in campus and new to the area, you might want to consider having a car, or if you're living around the area, we have the Monarch rides that help you get around the area. Or if you want a bike, or find whatever would work for you in the area. And then I found the weather to be bearable, but I expected some snow when I got here. Jay, when was the last time it snowed in Norfolk? I don't know, but
this might be a better question. I think it's been the last couple of years, but the snow does not come and stay.
okay.
It is possible, but it will not be here for a long period.
Yeah, so I hope to see, I was hoping to find or see some snow in the winter, but I did not. But all in all, the weather is just bearable. But though, if you're coming from the tropical side, we don't have the extremes, the too cold or too hot weather, but it's still bearable. So if you're considering coming to ODU or taking a course here at Norfolk, I think this is a perfect place, I would say.
Yeah. So one thing, and so this is a question that I might have if I was a student considering, Ruth, and you might give your opinion. I'm not sure that public transportation is good enough if you live very far away from campus. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. Ooh.
Okay.
So the public transportation is not reliable. So you might consider like living close to campus, or maybe have a car if you can afford to stay wherever you want to stay.
Yeah, many of us do live close. It's possible to ride a bicycle or to walk. Campus is it's pretty safe. The one thing I did want to make a quick drop for, and you mentioned it the other day when we talked before this started. So Global Friendship House, that is actually a place to help international students, or is that a place you can actually stay? Because housing is a big question.
So the Global Friendship House is a place, it's almost like an apartment where you can stay, affordable mostly for international students. Or we also have American students staying in here. So you might consider looking on that. And it's also an organization that helps. There's the Global Student Friendship and there's the Global Friendship House. It's kind of the same thing, related. So if you're considering coming here, you can get in contact with one of the staff or one of the leaders, and they are gonna help you, um,
To help connect. It might help connect you even with just a student who's looking.
With students. If they also do a good job with pairing you. If English is not your first language, they find you somebody to talk to sometimes to help you with your English. I know there are other organizations in schools that help you with that, but
Yeah, I mean, I was excited because I learned something new when we were talking. So, Andrea, did you have a question?
I have a question. Hi, everyone. I have a question about transportation because I will not have a car my first semester. So I was just wondering, what is it bad about the bus or like taking the bus? What do you mean by like it's not that reliable? Or is it just not safe to take it? Or should I just take like a bike instead? Or I don't know. Just about the bus that
Public transit. So my
Yes.
perception is that the schedules may not be, they may only run every 30 or 45 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
There are routes that can get you around Norfolk, but you may just have to plan your day according to when the schedule takes you places. If you live close to the university, and Ruth had mentioned this, they have a Monarch ride that I think at least once a week, you can ride to the grocery store, and they have some other outings that occur throughout the week as well.
Great.
So there are services, but that's relatively close to campus, right? So you would have to get closer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Andrea. All right. Good. Slide 10. So back to me. Curriculum. As I mentioned before, 10 courses. We have basically 7 courses that you really, or excuse me, 8 courses that are just assumed, like when you come in. And so your first semester, if you come in the fall, you'll be taking Econ 625, Econ 700, and Econ 701. This is your first semester. If you're coming in the spring, we will probably pair you with a couple of electives. It's just set up a little easier for students to come in the fall. You end up with basically, there are options in terms of the electives. Normally 2 to 3 are available each semester. I know, like, I'm teaching development in the spring. Urban is available this semester, and I believe Dr. Colburn is teaching health in the spring as well. And money and banking, I think, is available. But there are options, basically, when it comes time for your electives. And then our program, we don't have a thesis requirement or comprehensive exams, but the Econ 698 is a capstone course. And it sort of will feel like a thesis, or it is sort of structured in that manner where you're expected to complete a project on your own. Really, I mean, working with a professor. That might be something that if you were interested, you could continue on beyond the course. Or hopefully the idea is throughout your econometrics series, because you have 4 statistical courses for R's incorporated. Perhaps one of the projects that you work on as part of that, you can continue and work on as part of the capstone. But that's something to worry about when you get here. Just know that we try to pair you based on your interests and professor interests, as far as that goes. We have some of these people in attendance. And so here are some of our faculty members that you will be working with. Professor Bob McNabb teaches the first couple of courses in the econometrics series, Econ 700, sort of the introduction to R, and then Econometrics 1. Alex Cardazzi, who I believe is in attendance, teaches later in the econometrics series, as well as transportation, and I think he's going to have a sports course here in the next couple semesters. He seems to be excited. Professor David Sellover in attendance. He is waving. I see him in his little window. Teaches the mathematical economics course. Christine Strong teaches macroeconomics, as well as the money and banking elective. And so I think Ruth was going to mention.
Yeah, we have Professor Hywen. I took his class in advanced microeconomics. Professor Evie, I think I'm gonna take his class, her class for econometrics too. And Jenny, I took his class, lab economics class, and I'm currently also taking Professor Rex's class, urban economics. I'll say I've had the privilege of taking all their classes except for Evie, who I'm going to take her class in the spring.
In the spring. And so this is not to say that you couldn't have others, because other people do teach electives. I know Professor Colburn's with us today as well. And I think Rex maybe end up in the next year or so taking one of the econometrics courses, but we'll see. These are just to sort of mention some names so they might feel a little more familiar. Career opportunities. And so for those of you who are interested in our program, this is sort of the way that I understand it historically to be. Is historically about 2/3 of those who come through end up going into industry. And when I say industry, this means like government, central banks, private enterprise, and about 1/3 continue into PhD programs. In the last just 2 to 3 years, we've certainly had others who've gone on to PhD programs. We've had people go on to University of Houston, Howard University in Washington, D.C., Auburn University in Alabama, and then CUNY, the City University of New York. Just a quick drop. Aliu Ba is currently the one. He graduated last year. He's at the University of Houston. We will have an event like this next week where he's going to talk about his process of applying and how it's going this year. I'm actually really interested to hear how it's going. I haven't spoken with Aliu other than email in a while. And so industry, it's a pretty wide swath, but we've got a group locally that have gone into like the economic development agencies or the local sort of government budgeting offices, those sorts of things. But more widely, one of our graduates from the spring ended up in Dubai at Meraki Group. Stephanie ended up with Global Logic as a financial analyst or just as an analyst. EAB does educational consulting in DC. We've got someone at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Leidos. They are the ones that have the little things in the airport security. They scan you, but they do other things than just that. Cushman and Wakefield, which is commercial real estate, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Bench Sci. To be honest, what I would recommend if you're interested to see where our graduates are, some of you may or may not know this, another plug for LinkedIn. You can actually go into LinkedIn and go under Old Dominion University or the Strome College of Business, which we're in, and you can choose alumni, and you can choose what they studied, and under what they studied in economics, and you can look directly at the alumni who've studied economics at our university. This is one of our initiatives as a department, is to work on alumni outreach. I think we had a newsletter go out today, actually. So that's something exciting this semester. And we're working to try to help place you and to make connections so the network for graduates will grow. That sort of stuff. And so career services, I think Ruth and I were going to talk a little bit. We have
I remember in Alex's class, he asked us to make an e-portfolio, but we have the career development services that helps you with that. So it's good to have an e-portfolio, have all your details there, your resume, your experiences or interests. And the career development services also helps you to prepare your resume. And say if you have an interview, it helps you prepare accordingly. And also the internship office helps you. If you're looking for an internship, you can visit with the internship office. Yeah. Jay?
Yes. And so, as I mentioned a little bit with the LinkedIn, we're working on trying to better reach out to alumni and other constituents as far as to helping make connections between students. We have some for us, I think they're pretty visible events on campus. We have the State of the Region presentation and then the economic forecast. This is all the State of the Region stuff just happened a week or two ago. So I think there were like 500 or 600 people who attended that. The program had a table. And so lots of students came, and I think we did pretty well in sort of meeting. In recent years, we've had people going to conferences. And so, especially for students who are interested, well, this is a question we can talk about if you're here, or if you have questions under question and answer. There's 2 or 3 buckets of money. If you're interested and you have a project that you'd like to present somewhere, you want to go to conferences, there are conferences that are closer. If you're not familiar with the United States, Virginia is really pretty close to a lot of the bigger cities in the east along the coast. You can get to Washington, D.C. on a train, and so you wouldn't necessarily have to drive, Andrea. Within 4 hours from Norfolk, you can get to New York on a train in like 7, or a bus in about the same amount of time. Or you can take a flight, which is quicker, but it may cost more. And I'm just saying that to say, like, geographically, we're kind of well located. And a lot of those cities would also have. And so if you're interested, you've got a project you want to present, it's good to sort of meet people, especially, I mean, whether you're going into industry or if you want to work. I think both. It's a good experience to see what people are working on. Good. Maybe financial aid and scholarships. Is this Ruth, I believe?
Yeah. So if you're in state, if you're within Virginia, your tuition is going to be a little bit cheaper or lower than if you're an outstate or non-resident or international students, to be specific. So if you're an in-state, your cost per credit is going to be $620. And then if you're within the United States and maybe in another state, or you want to take the classes online, your cost per credit is going to be $642. And if you're a non-resident or an international student, is going to be $1,486 per credit. So if you say you have a graduate assistantship, either teaching or whatever, research, you're going to get a waiver of 61%. So if you get that waiver, you're going to pay an instant, like somebody who's within Virginia, the resident of Virginia. So you're going to pay $620 per credit. But if, say, you don't have the assistantship, you'll pay the full cost. If you get the assistantship, you're going to have the 61% waiver, and then you'll have a stipend of $7,500 per semester. So basically, from my experience as an international student, the 61% waiver and the $7,500 assistantship all goes to my tuition. So at the end of the day, I have to figure out the living expenses and all other costs that are necessary for survival. So you have to, you cannot.
Yeah, that's something that I think is good to bring up. And thank you, Ruth. That's why I wanted you to mention this. So sometimes when I speak with international students, that the assistantship is enough to cover, like I'd say most, but you will have to have some additional money, some funds, either from friends, family, or other work to help cover the shortfall. I wish that our assistantship funds were bigger. From the way I understand it, there are some places that can offer more. There are some places that offer less. It's not a perfect world, that sort of thing. But it's just something to keep in mind as you're planning if you're a student who's interested. And the other thing I wanted to mention too while we were on this, and so the technologically delivered courses, and so this would be the 642 per credit. This would be as if you choose to be a fully online student. We were just approved for this over the last summer to become a fully online program. So we could have students who might never live in Virginia who choose to take courses and complete. But those are the students. So if you just take an online course and you were an international student, you wouldn't get the 642 rate. It's an online, fully online student is the 642 rate. And I've spoken with numerous students who've asked about it. We're still yet to have someone come in. And so I know we're getting closer. Maybe in the spring, the fall, it was really close to get that started. Did I steal thunder, Ruth? Did you want to add anything else?
No.
No? Okay. We're moving on. And I know that I've got a question or two waiting in the chat. And so I'll get back to those soon when we get to the questions. And so assistantships, this is something I know that many of you are interested in, those of you who have not received funding yet. So I can't really, or normally I don't share a lot of the information or the application portion until after students have been accepted. But there are basically 3 different sources of assistantships on campus. You have assistantships that come directly from the department. Those are the ones that myself and the admissions committee control. And so that would be where you would work as a teaching assistant. According to who you get paired with, you might do some research tasks. And then that same committee, we often talk to the Dragus Center. So the Dragus Center for Economic Analysis and Policy is largely populated by economists in the department. And so our MA students are normally the ones who work with them. The Dragus Center does a lot of grant-driven work. They prepare the State of the Region and the State of Commonwealth reports, as well as an economic forecast each year. And so if a student gets paired with the Dragus Center, you're going to be working with a lot of the applied data analysis skills that you're going to be using in your classes. You're going to be using it at work as well with your assistantship. And basically, once you're accepted, I will send with the acceptance letter instructions about how to apply for them to make sure that you're considered. There are assistantships that are also associated with the Strome College. That's a different system that you have to go in and apply through. That comes when you are accepted into the program. These positions, you might be paired with professors in the economics department. We have some students who end up working in the dean's office, doing events. One of our current students is with the Strome College and is working with a professor, I believe, from supply chain management. What really matters is that you get money, right? This is why I talk about the different buckets, or else I would just say, well, we have assistantships and I'll tell you about them. It's not just me. I mean, I will try to work with you once you're accepted to tell you where to look and how to best connect with where you can get funding on campus. There are also other departments across campus. Here's a link to some of those. I'll send out these slides afterwards where, for example, like last year, I saw a position that was available as an assistantship where you would work in one of the museums on campus. And while we would love for you to work with us, I mean, what matters is that you're getting funding and that you're working on campus, right? So, like, I want you to apply when you're accepted to anything that might be possible. Because I know for many students who apply, receiving funding is important, or attending might not be possible without an assistantship or sources of funds. Oops, let's see. Office of Financial Aid, another place to check with. Although they tend to, for international students, try to kind of, since you may not be available or you may not have loans available, they sometimes don't know exactly where to push you toward, but you should ask in terms of funding. The American Economic Association, which I generally just recommend in general, they talk about sources of funds like grants or scholarships that might be available if you think you might qualify. And then if you're a potential student from Africa, I attended a couple of Education USA events over the summer when I was abroad the country. And this is a site that Education USA recommends. It's not just for economics, it's any subject, the best I can figure out. I looked at it a little bit, that talks about like grants and scholarships. If you are an international student who's watching this, you might look and see if there's an Education USA group, or they do have virtual events in your country. I attended a couple of these when I was abroad and actually spoke. One of my events was about how to prepare a statement of purpose. And the other one, I spoke about sort of the timeline for applying for graduate school. And so I think especially when students are looking at graduate study, they may not understand the process or how to get ready to do these things. And so I thought Education USA might be a good resource that some people could check out. I think this is still me. Rolling admissions, it's actually pretty easy with us. We try to make it easy for you. It's rolling admissions. So you could apply now. You could actually apply up to like 2 to 3 weeks before the fall or the spring semester started. And we could try to get you through the system. But for international students, it gets to be very difficult, especially with visa. And so if you're an international student, I would recommend, and so notice I have 2 dates here where I say priority deadlines. So when we're making decisions for fall assistantships, applications that come in before March 1, so March 1st. And so notice that's like 5 months ahead of time. And then for the spring, you can consider that around August 1st. And so there still does need to be planning, especially for those of you who are searching for funding. But if you're a domestic student or if you're a current ODU student, please ask me about direct admission. You can just send me a quick email. This is a program that's available. Or if you're an undergraduate student, we have a linked program by undergraduate students can go ahead if you have the right, your GPA is a certain amount. You have the right prerequisites, you might be able to go ahead and take some master's courses as an undergraduate, and that could make it quicker for you to finish the master's program. I know this is something that people may have questions about, and so I'll leave it with that. This is listed, and so Ruth, I might come back and talk to you about some of the international student requirements, although you are a native English speaker from Kenya. You need 1 letter of recommendation, undergraduate GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. We have 3 prerequisite courses, 1 in calculus, 1 in statistics, and 1 in intermediate macroeconomics or intermediate microeconomics. It's possible that even if you don't meet some of these requirements, that we can have a provisional admission. I've worked with students who perhaps their GPA did not meet the 3.0, or perhaps they were not able to take the GRE or GMAT. There's some conditions that I might ask for students who perhaps don't meet these guidelines that are a little different, but once the provisional part of the admission is completed, then you could enter the program. It's the same degree, It's just we may have to do things a little bit differently at the start. For international students, there is an English language proficiency if you're not a native English speaker. And so it's not just the TOEFL. This is something to keep in mind. You can look on the website. I think ODU has started taking even like Duolingo tests now. So the TOEFL is expensive. And there might be some options that are not the TOEFL. But if you're applying to a range of schools, maybe you need the TOEFL. So it's just something that might be worth looking into. We've got a couple of students this semester. Just to go ahead and mention this as a possibility, that's the second point here. There's an English transition program at the university. And so if you cannot actually get your English up to the test threshold, we have a program whereby you can come, you would take one class in the master's program and 2 English courses your first semester. We've got 2 students this semester. We've had numerous students since I've been at ODU who participated in this. This is not like you would be the first one. And it has worked out fairly well for the students who participated. So just keep that in mind if you're having problems reaching proficiency. Once you're surrounded by English, it becomes easier to learn, but it's still a lot to transition. And so with that said, was there anything else that you wanted to add to the application process, Ruth? Did you?
I think the application process was, for me, I found it to be pretty easy. I know you get a lot of emails from students asking, what am I fit? I think for any students that's considering to join the program or to apply, you should always go through the eligibility requirements first, and find or collect all the necessary items that you need, and then apply. It's pretty easy and simple. So you're considering applying and you have all the materials stated in the requirements, just go and apply. And you'll get a response sooner than you think. It's much easier and simple.
Yeah, with rolling admissions, we can generally respond fairly quickly. I did want to ask, I do get this question from international students sometimes about the application fee waiver, or if that might be possible. I have heard some students say they have managed to get one, but honestly, I don't know if I have never gotten a code to share with students or potential students. So at some point, maybe I will end up in the right meeting, but I apologize. I do not know a waiver code to help with that fee, but I do get that email pretty regularly. And now, with that said, if anyone has, and I will look at the chat. We have a couple backed up. And so if anyone would like, feel free to type your questions into the chat. We have our first from Lamini. I will be coming in the spring, and I wanted to know if it's better to secure accommodation before arriving, or would you advise doing that when you arrive in town? Do you have an opinion, Ruth?
So you can go to ODU Rents, look for that online. Let me see if I can find that right now and then put it on the chat. Or Jay, you're going to send them thank you. ODU Rents.
I will.
Jay is going to send you. You can also consider looking at the Global Student Friendship House if you're coming, and start communicating right now. It's better to start looking for places to stay right now.
So I've typed both ODU Rents and Global Student Friendship House into the chat. I have heard of friends. So this is, again, who they've arrived in places and gotten an Airbnb and just planned on finding something. That would make me nervous because it can get expensive if you don't find something quickly. But that's an opinion from me. And so, Ruth, you seem to think probably better before you arrive. Was the census?
It's a little different for me because I had
right.
a family over here. So
that's right. I forgot. Ruth did have a connection, so she did have someone you could stay with when you arrived.
yeah,
To me, it would make me nervous, but I do think that at least with ODU rents, or my guess, that Global Friendship House, those might be good initial steps. And in Craigslist, personally, when I have looked, that's where I found places to rent in the greater Norfolk area. I'm not sure that that's known if you are international student. And so I'll just write Craigslist. And I'll be honest, I think Facebook Marketplace now seems to have taken a lot of the business away from Craigslist, but Craigslist is a free classified ads site. And so we have a second, and feel free, Lamini, if you have a follow-up question, to type it in the chat. We have our second one. John from Nigeria, is it required to apply only after being accepted? So at least for the three that I mentioned, yes. You will not be automatically considered, like the Strong College applications, you need to fill out something separate, and then the ones across campus are separate. When you apply for the program, you're really just applying for acceptance into the program. And then the admissions committee, after some deliberations, some conversations, we talked about how it might be better if we could get more information from the students who wanted to look for funding. And so what will happen is when you are accepted, in the acceptance materials, it's a link to a survey, and you just fill that out, and that's how you're considered. So if I apply for a scholarship or assistantship, yeah, am I automatically considered for available funding? So yeah, once you apply, then you're in. We do have a situation where some students defer. So we have students who are accepted, and then they know, like, they're not able, we can't connect them with assistantship funding, and so they defer. So, like, I won't be able to come in the fall, but they'll say, well, I'd like to still come in the spring. And basically we put everyone into the assistantship pool again in hopes of connecting people with funding. And so I know we may have some people watching this who are in that group. And so what I tend to do is maybe like a month before classes start for the fall or the spring semester, I'll send out a link to all the students that are accepted. And then I'll say, if you're would still like to come and be considered again, please defer. And so that way we'll know. And then at that point, I would ask you to reapply for the department funds. Victor has asked, is it possible to get an assistant or university merit? So university merit scholarships would be something that you would have to work through financial aid with. At least with our current students, I'm not sure that I know someone who's gotten a scholarship through the university. Graduate study tends to be more through the department, but I really recommend talk to someone in financial aid. I mean, if you're thinking about coming from abroad, or if you're a domestic student thinking about graduate education, it is an investment of time. And you should consider your options. Ask people if there might be something available. It doesn't hurt, right? Call around campus. People generally are nice on campus, and they look to try to help students. That's from my understanding. You maybe, but I'm not sure that we have any current students who currently get a university merit scholarship. And so that seems like we've still got a few minutes left. Would anyone else like to type a question? Good for the day. Okay. Um, I would just like to recommend this as a parting thing. Andrea, did you want to ask something? I saw the mute pop up.
Yeah, I typed one, but I think it was on direct message, so you probably didn't see it. It's okay. I was just wondering about once you're accepted, about the
Oh,
registration.
yes,
You're
I
good.
apologize. I did skip yours. I should probably look at the questions again. So this is true. So this is a question that students often have. So you've been accepted. When can you register for courses? And so registration will open for domestic students and students already in the program. So who are already here within the next couple or 3 weeks, the next 2 to 3 weeks. But as an international student, you will not be allowed to register until you arrive on campus. This is part of your welcome event. You'll come to campus one day and there's an office and they will help you register. So, Andrea, for you, since you're scheduled to come in the spring, we just need to trade messages and make sure you know which classes to register for. But I promise you, do not worry about getting into classes or them filling. We will make sure you get in the classes. Okay. Students always worry about this. If your other school, sometimes classes was fill, that is not a problem. We will make sure you get in. You're in the
And
program. When you get here, we'll make sure you get in your courses.
and just one more for the spring. It's the classes starts, it says that it's the 11th. When is good for me to get there? Like how much in advance is it good for me to have time to register and get, I mean, I know moving and everything, it's like on me, but just like for the school.
So for the school, so Ruth, so this might be a Ruth may know better. I have an idea, but let's see if Ruth knows more.
So to give you, I also started in the spring and I came here in late December. And then the first week of January, we have a welcome session with we have an orientation session with the international office and all. So the first week of January, uh, I don't know the exact dates, is usually the day or the time you can register for your classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
international admissions should be able to help you, Andrea. So my guess is so for especially international students, they may not know campus actually will close between Christmas, December 25th, and New Year's Day, January 1st. And so you will not, I mean, I might respond to an email or professors might respond to emails, but to get staff, that they are not expected to. So campus will not reopen until in January. And so my guess would at least be that week prior to when classes start, Andrea. So notice the difference of what I'm saying is someone who doesn't exactly know, but you need at least probably 1 or 2 business days to like to get into the office because the people may not be at work on a Saturday or Sunday, but Thursday or Friday. So my guess is that week prior to when classes start, whether Monday is best or Wednesday is best, I'm not exactly sure, but sometime that week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a good question, Andrew. Make sure. Okay. And so Angela also asked the same question. So she asked about fall. What is considered appropriate for a student to arrive on campus? Um, and so actually, we've got a couple more good questions here. Angela, this is something that we've been talking about internally as a department about perhaps trying to do a welcome event or have a couple days of orientation for incoming students. So, Andrea, this would not be something you would have to worry about in the spring. we're trying to figure it out for the fall. My guess, Angela, is probably like 1 week prior. But at least that Tuesday or Wednesday of the week prior to when classes start, because you'll need to get into some of those offices to see people. And I will not perhaps do very well on your name, Nabono. I've worried about this since I started seeing your applications. It's like if when we talk, I'll have to do this the first time. He has asked about if there is any advice on visa preparation. And so, Ruth, would you have any thoughts about how students might prepare for a visa interview?
My thoughts would be to go to YouTube and there are a lot of people talking about the visa application, appointment. So please, that would be the best resource, I would say. I used the YouTube videos to prepare for my visa interview. So I think that I would recommend that for you.
Okay. And so I'm not sure if this is cheating or not. Andrea and I have been traded a lot of emails back and forth. She is an incoming student in the spring, from Mexico, but I know she is already studying in the United States. Andrea, would you have other advice than what Ruth said from your experience with the visa process? Or
yeah, just to do it with time and make sure that you have enough funding, because the funding is something that they really look at. It's pretty much one of the main reasons why they would reject your application if they think that you don't have enough funding, and they also just want you to show that you have something to go back to your country for. So if they ask you what your goals are, you can say, yeah, I'm trying to get a master's program. So in the future, I would like to apply what I learned back to my country. Because if they think that you're trying to stay, they will consider like you're trying to immigrate to the country. So they might not want to give you a visa if that's like what you tell them. So yeah, just be honest and don't get that nervous, because then they're gonna see that as like, oh, why is she nervous for? But yeah, just mine was pretty fast, so it'll go by pretty fast if you have all the documents you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
One more thing, Jay. If you're from African countries, you might consider time, because in some of the countries there is a backlog, and if you're applying, say you want to come to the spring, if you're planning to come to the fall, this should be the right time that you book an appointment because of the backlog.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. That is really worth mentioning. I've heard this from numerous students. One of our students who arrived in the fall from Southeast Asia had to fly to another country for her appointment, simply because her country, the backlog was too long. This is just something where I think sometimes when students start the process, they may not realize how long these lags are between planning and doing it. But it's really good to get used to planning. This will help you in your classes and in working on papers and stuff too.
If anyone has any trouble in Mexico, the appointments are like for the next day, and it's super close to the US. So it's a good place to consider in case you can't get one in your country.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, Andrea and I have spoken numerous times. I don't think that I did not think she would feel singled out. So thank you, Andrea. One great source, and so I mentioned this, if we've traded emails and you're a student watching this, it's possible or likely that I've forwarded this website. If you're wanting to come to the United States, this is the best source for information that I'm aware of on the American Economic Association website. It has a calendar. It talks about classes to consider as an undergraduate. It lists programs that have, master's or PhDs. it is just really a good source to consider. And so please look at it if you haven't. For us, I've given you the information for our program, or Ruth and I have. And so, at least for us, but if you're thinking around the United States, you might consider looking here as well. And so, with that said, I'm not sure how, I didn't think I wrote on this, that little blue line. Oh, it's not on the screen. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Ruth, our ambassador, the MA program ambassador. If for any reason you have questions or concerns, or you want more information, please feel free to contact Ruth or I. And so I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but Ruth, I know, has been speaking to numerous students as well. I have video calls with students, trade emails with students regularly, almost every day. And so thank you for your interest in the program. And even if you can't come study with us at ODU, I think Ruth, we would love to see you here in Norfolk. Hopefully you can reach your goals in terms of higher education and studying economics. So
yeah,
thanks everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Cut things here. Is John still? Nope. Okay. I found another question that I had